Hi, everyone. My name is Michaela, and I'm one of the counselors with Moon Prep. Welcome to our scholarships presentation tonight. I know you all have very busy schedules, especially right now with everyone being stuck indoors, and I'm just thankful that you're choosing to spend your evening with us. Tonight, we're going to be tackling the subject of scholarships and financial aid, which is such a big financial factor in the college admissions puzzle, and honestly can ultimately depend and determine where students end up attending. We're really excited to share our strategies on hunting down the maximum number of scholarships, merit or otherwise, to fund your educational goals. And I'll circle back to this point in a minute, but it's my firm belief that just because the college's goal, just as a business like any other, isn't to make your education free, that doesn't mean it can't be the goal of your family, especially when working with one of the Moon Prep counselors, because our partnerships with our students are so personalized that scholarships can absolutely be a focus for you. So just a little bit about me before we begin. I originally wanted to go out of state for college, but stayed in state at the last minute. And since I was originally planning on going out of state, I pursued more scholarships to cover that bigger cost than I probably would have otherwise, and ended up saving in the long run. Just to put things into perspective for you, I graduated with less than $10,000 in loans just by being price conscious when staying in state for school, but also using scholarships to supplement that tuition. And then since graduating from that in-state university, I worked as a staff writer for a national magazine and also as a recruiter and admissions counselor for a Big Ten university. But most importantly, I was also had the privilege of sitting on multiple local scholarship committee boards in addition to scholarship committees at the university level. So I have the unique perspective of having been the one reading essays on the other side and knowing exactly what scholarship committees are looking for. And now, of course, I spend my time with students all across the country with Moon Prep. That's one thing I love about Moon Prep is that our counselors come from a variety of professional backgrounds like admissions counselors, ACT, SAT prep, tutors, professional writers, and guidance counselors, so that when you work with one of us, you're really working with all of us and benefiting from our collective experience. Another thing I love is that we're always seeking new ways to connect with families, whether it's hosting a free webinar like this or posting an Ask Me Anything session on Reddit. And of course, in this counselor role at Moon Prep, we've been able to blend all of our strengths into one to really help families. So whether it's using my writing background to help a student edit their Common App essay, or drawing from my admissions background by having a meeting with an entire family about comparing a financial aid letter, I'm really doing anything a family or a student needs to meet their goals.
Hi everyone, my name is Nicole and I'm another one of the counselors here at Moon Prep. I'm a licensed professional school counselor. I have a master's degree in counseling and a master's degree in higher education. I formerly worked as a financial aid counselor at Hofstra University, where I assisted students and their families understanding their financial aid package options. I'm well-versed in the FAFSA and the Federal Student Aid Program. Currently at Moon Prep, I work with students one-on-one, creating an individualized plan to tackle their goals and achieve admission to the top universities.
Okay. Oh, and
awesome. But today we're going to cover one of my personal specialties, which is scholarships. So like I said, scholarships were the missing piece of the puzzle for me in my college journey. Without scholarships, I've not been able to graduate on time, as I was probably going to be working multiple jobs. This may be true for some of you, or maybe just scholarships might fill that financial gap between your dream college and the state college down the block from you. Just in case you attended one of our scholarship webinars about 6 months ago in the fall, we did want to let you know that we're probably going to be covering some of the same similar material. We are offering this webinar a couple times during the academic cycles, just so new groups of families can see this information as a refresher or get some ideas. So today we'll be discussing the types of scholarships available and how each of the categories affect the final price tag on your top schools, where to look for outside scholarships, which is where most of students get stuck, how to create an organized scholarship list to help your applying simple and not add any craziness to the rest of senior year. And finally, what scholarship committees are actually looking for in your essays. So we have a lot of material to get through, so please know we're going to try to answer as many questions as we can. However, any questions outside of the realm of scholarships, we won't forget you. We'll just be answering them probably in email after this session.
And the first thing to do is to understand the big picture of how tuition and scholarships are priced so that you're coming from the right perspective to begin your search. The college, their job is to do extensive research and price their tuition competitively, and then participate in need-based aid programs like the FAFSA or the CSS profile to allow families to afford their tuition. And every college, of course, has their own pricing equation and they do their own research. And after pricing their published tuition, which is also called the cost of attendance, along with housing and books, colleges decide on which academic scholarships to offer, how much they can offer in scholarships at which academic benchmarks. This is something they actually consider when pricing their tuition in the first place, like estimating how many applicants will have a 31 ACT, because if they're offering a full ride scholarship to every applicant that has a 22 ACT, then everyone attending their school would be for free and they would probably have no money to give everyone meals. And that just simply won't work. So this is just a good starting point, knowing that tuition prices are needed to maintain a large campus and attract great professors. So this just means if tuition is the big iceberg, then merit scholarships offered by the school can chip away some of that ice, and then grants can chip away a little bit more. And then external scholarships or loans are what is kind of needed to bridge the rest of that gap, to chip away the rest of the ice for a clear path to school. So just after considering a school's cost of attendance, which again should equal the average cost it takes to attend school for 1 year with everything included, it's up to your family to figure out what the rest of those funds are going to come from. And thankfully, scholarships are a great answer to that. We're going to be covering a lot of ways to bridge that gap. So let's just discover the types of scholarships first, and then we're going to hear from our guest too. So the first type is merit scholarships, which are also called academic scholarships other places. This category is pretty straightforward as they're awarded upon admission based on your test scores and GPA from the end of your junior year, basically just all the numbers. And these are not based on your income, so they're not need-based. These are fantastic awards to research in advance. This is honestly pretty much where you should start your research when you're building your college list, because they are renewable for additional years, most likely. I know there's some schools that do merit scholarships that aren't renewable. That's something to research in advance. This is just an easy financial answer for future years to come. And if you begin researching your top schools early enough, you can set goals for yourself before applying to really work well with these merit scholarships. Like the difference between a 28 ACT or a 30 ACT might mean an extra $3,000 and maybe only one extra time taking the test, which is definitely worth knowing in advance to set that benchmark for yourself and work towards it. Some schools offer an unlimited number of these admissions scholarships on a rolling basis, and other schools have a limited quantity and work with early action deadlines to have a matching priority scholarship deadline, which is another reason to do all of this research in advance to not miss out on any funds. One thing to consider with merit scholarships when you're researching a college list and building that list is that even a full ride academic scholarship rarely covers housing as well. There's a lot of information out there about merit scholarships, and we're going to get to one of those resources, but many of these answers are also going to be based on the individual school. So it's really important for you to do that research in advance. Again, the big takeaways here are that these are the earliest scholarships that you're probably likely to hear back from. So they might have the biggest impact on your financial decision of schools. And they're usually renewable, so they have the potential to have the most long-term financial impact too. And now we'd like to introduce our guest. So, Nita is a digital platform expert and a New York City public school parent. She was frustrated with the lack of tools and data available for students or for parents with college bound students. So, she founded Merit More, which is a free online tool to help parents find merit aid and navigate the admissions process. But I'll let her tell you a little bit more.
Thank you so much, Michaela. So as you mentioned, I'm a parent, and one thing we realized very early in the process was that we were a donut hole family. So we didn't make enough money to qualify for need-based aid, and there's no way we could pay for sticker price. And the more I sort of dug into this, the more I realized the path to affordability was through merit aid. And everybody basically told us that merit aid generally is awarded as a way to entice kids who enhance the stats of schools. So schools are looking for kids who are in the top quartile for GPA and test scores, and that's sort of the quickest way to figure out if the school you're interested in is likely to award you merit aid. So that was sort of a big piece for us. And then the other thing we had to dig into was of the schools that were likely to award us aid, what percentage of incoming freshmen would receive aid. And if that number was really low, then we considered it not a good fit on our list. So we really used a merit aid strategy to build our list to make sure that we had a good number of financial fit schools. So I'm going to show you the tool in a second. I just wanted to talk through sort of some of the basics also of merit aid. It's the largest pool of free money that's available to families that don't qualify for need-based aid. So that's in the range of $8 to $10 billion. It's awarded directly by colleges. It's not based on financial need. As you said, it's typically renewable for all 4 years. And I think it's one thing people should remember is it's not only awarded to overachievers. So we have run some statistics, and there are also lots of great schools with generous aid for B students. How do I get merit aid? That's the question we had. So again, colleges will award these generally to kids whose test scores and GPAs are in the top quartile. It doesn't require a separate application, unlike private scholarships. But we do say that it's important to file at least the FAFSA and then look into the school's requirements, because you may also need to file a CSS to qualify for that form of aid. And then finally, just in terms of what's different between merit and private scholarships is merit's awarded directly by colleges, doesn't require a separate application, often renewable, and in our experience, it's negotiable. So, at the end of the admission cycle, when you get your award letter, you can go back to a college and ask for more money. So there's still room to get more there. So those are sort of the basics. And I'm going to walk you through a quick search. So this is the site. It's meritmore.com. It's free for anyone to use. And it's a very quick search. So the fields you'll enter are your test score. So I'm going to just enter 34. Since a lot of kids are not taking tests, there's also an option to calculate this without a test score. I'm going to enter 3.9 as a GPA, and I'm just going to do California. So our list is not too big. And what we'll do is we'll give you 2 sets of results to show you which schools are likely to give you aid. The first include the strongest matches. So these are all schools where you're in the top quartile for both of those variables. And then we'll do good matches to consider. So those are schools that are also good. You're still, in the top, you're still above average, and there's, you should still consider those. So in each of our results, we'll give you basic information, the cost of attendance, the percentage of freshmen that receive merit aid, the average merit aid amount, average GPA of incoming freshmen, SAT, ACT, and acceptance rate. All of these fields are sortable. So you can sort of do quick searches there, and then I'll show you sort of quickly some of the information we have. for a particular school. So this is for Occidental. And at the top, we have some basic information. So 36% of freshmen receive merit aid there. So, for us, that's a pretty generous number. And the average merit aid award is $12,332. And if you're on the high end of that, you could be getting more money. And if you're on the low end, less. I think the red flags here for families are if the average merit award is about $1,000 and the cost of attendance is $70,000, even if you're a good merit match, that's probably not going to make the school more affordable. We have some data around need-based and some general admissions data. I'm actually going to log in quickly here to show you some additional features. We include some other affordability data. So it's important, particularly in larger schools, to know what the 4-year graduation rate is, because oftentimes, if you're looking at a low 4-year graduation rate, you might end up paying tuition for at least another year, and there are significant financial considerations for that. And some schools offer a tuition guarantee plan, which can help you keep the cost down. And we're including some basic debt and future salary information. I think it's just good to compare at different schools. And then one thing we do have is we have collected some historical data from other applicants in previous years. And in this table here, they tell us how much money they received from this school. So this particular applicant received $10,000 in grants based not on financial need, and $20,000 based on financial need. So it's not comprehensive, and it's just sort of another data point for families to look at to see what did other actual applicants get from the school. And then we just have some fun little tables. I sort of think of this as a real estate website where you have lots of different variables that you can sort of parse in different ways. So we have a little table for schools with similar acceptance rate and cost of attendance, and then similar acceptance rate and 4-year graduation. And this is sort of the magic graph, percentage received merit aid and the average merit aid amount. So if Occidental was sort of the school you are investigating, Kenyon and Brandeis are two similar types of schools. And you can just sort of see how that financially pans out. So that's really the merit searched part of this, and that's all the merit data we have. A couple of other tools here is we have an application task manager, which is just a way to, when you get around to actually doing your application, I know we're at the end of the cycle for seniors, but for juniors, this pre-populates with a bunch of tasks that you're going to need. And we fill in the dates, the deadlines for you, and everything shows up in a calendar view. You can add your own task or deadline, if you have a portfolio to do, or you want to make a deadline for getting your letter of recommendation, you can add this, and you can customize this whole list. So it's just an easier way than spreadsheets to keep up sort of with all the tasks as you go through the process. And there's a status bar for each school on the top. And if anyone here is a senior, we've just recently launched a tool that lets you compare. I'm not going to go into it, but it lets you compare all of your offers sort of on a very simple grid. And you can see other families who submit data for a particular school. You can see that information as well. So this is like other applicants showing you what they got from that school. And then sort of the most valuable here is there's a tool to quickly generate an appeal letter. So we really recommend that, any school you're serious in applying to, ask them for more money. And this template sort of incorporates all of the best practices about, what tone to use, how to structure your letter, what data to include, to have a successful appeal. So we've actually, when we did this for my daughter, we got another $5,000 per year. So that that converted to $20,000 off the price of the school. So that was significant. And, just encourage everybody to make sure you ask for more money at the end of the process. And that's about it.
Okay, perfect. When you're building a college list, there's no reason why, Merit More shouldn't be an essential tool that you're using, just walking hand in hand with either while you're building a college list and planning to apply, or after you've applied and you're comparing financial aid offers. So definitely, I recommend bookmarking Merit More and using them throughout, starting now if you're a junior all the way through the end of your senior year. It can be useful at very different points. So thank you for coming on. And at this point, we want to for sure open up the chat to if there's any questions for Nita from Merit More. Do you have any questions about how to use the website or any questions relating to Merit More at this time? We'll give it. I should have probably said that at the beginning, like send your questions in so we don't have to wait for people to type, but we'll give it just a little bit. And of course, we do also have their email address. We'll be linking that at the end as well, that if you have any questions that you didn't get to and you want them to be answered by Merit More, you're welcome to email them and they'll get right back to you.
Yeah, definitely.
I think how do you find scholarships that give directly to the student rather than the school? We need additional money for living expenses, but don't want to jeopardize scholarships. So essentially, scholarships that give directly to the student would be external or outside scholarships. I personally haven't run across school like merit scholarships that give straight to the student. So you'd be looking at outside scholarships, unless I guess I just worked for a public state university, so maybe, private schools work differently, but I'm going to be covering external and outside scholarships in a future slide, so just stay tuned. Nicole, anything to add?
Yeah, actually. So a lot of parents and students have the issue of they want to get as much money as possible. What they don't realize is typically there's a cost of attendance budget set by the school. So if you get your financial aid package, you're going to look at you're going to have indirect costs and then you're going to have direct costs. So the direct costs are the tuition, the fees, the room and board. The indirect costs are going to be anything like books and supplies, transportation, miscellaneous fees, personal expenses. So all that is built into your cost of attendance budget. If you do get outside scholarships and you want to add them on and tack them onto the merit scholarships from the school, it won't jeopardize it. It cannot be more than your cost of attendance. So definitely look into that. But if there is any type of gap that's being filled with loans, it shouldn't jeopardize it at all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And okay, I believe Susan has a question that can be answered from Merit More. Do schools consider the entire GPA or just GPA for core courses when awarding merit scholarships? Would you like to take this one, Nita, or do you want me to take it?
Yeah, why don't you take it?
Okay. So, the core courses would be considered by departmental schools. So, departmental departments of the school. Like, wait, what? So when you're applying for admissions, they're going to be looking at your cumulative GPA. But then, if you're applying for engineering, they're going to be looking at, they might have their own requirement, like just to get into this school might be a 3.0 GPA, but then to get into the engineering program might be a 3.5 GPA. And they also might be looking at your GPA for core courses for their major, like math. They want to see what your science GPA has been. So the department for your major might be looking at those core course GPA, basically, or have a different requirement than admissions overall, like just a different cumulative GPA or a different ACT, SAT score. But otherwise, for admissions, I have not run across that they would just look for core course GPAs. But Nicole, have you run across that anywhere?
Not that they're only looking for core, but you do. Obviously, each state has different requirements for graduation, so you'll likely have to take an art or a music, which is not going to be held against you. However, really taking advantage of your school's course catalog and taking the courses that primarily align with the student's career interest is probably the best way to, use your electives, because you have to take some of them, but use them to the best of your ability, that it does provide rigor.
And then we have another question: how to win merit-based scholarships? Do we need high GPAs? So the good news is you can start researching right now. Obviously, you can use Merit.more and type in all of your information, and you can start seeing where you'd be getting good merit scholarships. But a lot of the colleges too publish kind of a graph of like what awards they'll be rewarding for different GPAs and test scores. So, I mean, I've seen merit scholarships get awarded at, 2.7 GPA. So, of course, the higher GPA, the higher test scores will be getting you more money across the board. But it's not like you have to have a 3.9 to get any merit scholarships at all. So it just depends on kind of like the schools that you're looking at, and also your own statistics, basically. But Merit.more is a great place to start for that.
Yeah, and actually, we did do a couple of months ago. We posted like the 10 best schools that give generous aid to B students. So certainly your score can help you, and there's all sorts of colleges out there. So somebody wants you. And the key is to make that match. Find the school that wants you and will give you money to come.
Yes. So is that our article on your blog then?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Everyone, check out Merit.more's blog, because they've got some great articles.
It's on our blog. I'll send it to you guys as well.
Perfect. And then if we have an average GPA during our high school, so in your opinion, would I still apply for merit scholarships, because chances are very low for me? Just like Nita said, there will be a school out there that will absolutely be a good match for you. So whether that means just finding a school that has just lower tuition in general, I believe the state university I went to back in the day, was less than 10 grand for the year. You can find schools like that would be the same as getting a $10,000 scholarship from a school that originally cost $20,000. So, if your GPA is honestly low enough that you might not qualify for merit scholarships, then you'll just have to strategize and find a school that's in your budget without merit scholarships.
I'm going to tap on what Michaela said also. This past summer, I know a lot of us noticed that schools were targeting students to complete applications early, and no essay required, just submit your application, just give us your general information. And a lot of my students came back and they actually didn't receive any merit scholarship, and they weren't sure why. So definitely submitting the essay, even if it's not required. Having a personal statement that is strong, I have seen get students with lower GPAs not only into schools that their peers with higher GPAs did not, and get merit scholarship for those schools over students that just were not in the mood to submit an essay. So definitely think about that. I did see the next question. What is the best strategy to appeal for requesting additional merit award after your first offer? I always tell my students to bring in submit your mid-semester transcripts. So if you crush it fall of senior year, which you should have, definitely appeal with that letter attached and say, I worked really hard in the fall. These are my updated grades. These are my most recent cumulative GPA. And that's one of the strongest ways to do it.
And just to jump in on, after you get your award, there's a couple of things that can be really effective in terms of writing a letter and getting more things. So I would recommend you use our tool, because we sort of built everything in there, but just the highlights are, the tone has to be right. So it's thankful, but hopeful that you'll get more money. You need to outline sort of any changes in your financial situation or any additional considerations or anything that's changed that might impact your ability to pay. You can also update it with sort of any achievements or anything that they don't know about that you've done since your application was submitted. And then the thing that we've heard repeatedly from professionals is include an offer from a comparable school that's more generous, because they're competing for students at this point. And if a school that they feel is sort of their peer school is offering more money, that's your best shot at boosting what they give you.
And I would add to that I've seen that work a lot better at private schools than the state public schools. So just keep that in mind too, that's just a strategy too, for sure. Use that more on your private schools than public state ones. But well, we're going to move on, and we want to make sure that you all know, as Anita is going to say goodbye to us, but we have dropped in the chat not only Merit More's website, but also a link to their blog and also their email address. So if you have any questions that you feel like, maybe you're on your phone right now and you can't type in the chat right now, please reach out afterwards, and they are happy to direct you around their site.
Definitely. Thank you all for having this.
Yes, thank you, Nita. I'll touch base with you after.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. So next up, we're going to be talking about departmental scholarships. These are other institutional scholarships, and you should be inquiring about these scholarships immediately after receiving an offer of admission. They often have deadlines pretty early, like in December or January. Usually these kind of are offered a little bit earlier. Oh, things are moving around over here. Okay. These scholarships typically require an additional application or essay, like asking you to detail your leadership experience, community service work, or maybe your minority background or experiences. Also, if you're interested in pursuing an honors program and having that graduate with distinction notation on your diploma, research the scholarship options available through the Honors College too. This can usually involve a book stipend or scholarship, or even research with an honors professor. So these funds can just take shape in different ways. You should also look into departmental scholarships opportunities within your future major. This is like a scholarship awarded to an incoming marketing major from the business department, not the admissions department. Just like a student I worked with last year, she was a family friend, and she had pretty average grades and test scores, and she only received about $2,000 in merit or academic awards from her top school. But she was pursuing pre-vet, and she received an additional $5,000 renewable award from the veterinary science department because they liked all the internships she had on her resume, while maybe her admissions application wasn't super strong. So just be on the lookout for these major specific scholarships as early as you can. If there's none listed on the website, just honestly email someone in the department and ask if they have any that you can apply to. Athletic scholarships kind of follow their own timeline. So you have to contact coaches and work with coaching staff to secure offers. Since the funds are usually controlled and divided up between recruits by the head coach, there's usually very little information kind of published about these scholarships. Admissions counselors, if you just email into them, typically have very little information about these, just because the funds are always in flux as they continue recruiting. So my big advice for these athletic scholarships is just to start really early, contact coaches as early as possible to get the maximum amount of funding before they start using those funds as incentives later in the spring for indecisive students. And transfer scholarships are another strange sector because there's typically very limited awards available. The general assumption here from my past state university experience is that you've already attended school elsewhere first to save money. The assumption is on core general education credits. So colleges aren't super eager to give out just tons and tons and tons of merit aid to transfer students when essentially they feel like they're kind of like second choice, So that's just one thing to keep in mind. And whenever we do these scholarship webinars, we usually typically get a lot of international student questions about whether or not there are scholarships available for students coming from different countries. So I wanted to mention here too. Oh, I might have moved this around a little bit. Yeah, but for international students, some of these rules are kind of a little bit different. Like they can't apply for need-based aid in most cases. Go ahead and just keep it on the other slide, and I'll come to it if you want to go back. Yeah, sorry. Sorry. So we're going to kind of just talk about, talking about private scholarships and where to find them next. And then I'll kind of cover just some of the same things about international students, where they will find aid. So essentially, after talking about departmental scholarships, this brings us to private scholarships, which is also, we're going to be spending the rest of our time exploring today. These are also called outside scholarships. This is the big mystery that every parent wants to crack, these external scholarships, and we want to just cover where to begin. These are privately offered through organizations outside the college, and they're usually the true answer to an affordable college tuition because they can supplement the merit scholarships you receive, and they can also be applied to any school. So where do you begin? Most places will try to sell you this like amazing method on finding scholarships, like there's a big secret out there. But honestly, the big secret is it just takes organization and some time and some legwork. And so where to start is just like most things that seem kind of overwhelming at first, it's best just to start small, applying for the scholarships with the least amount of competition. So here's where you start. You follow on the screen very easily. Check first with your school's counseling website, and then follow up with your guidance counselor. Sometimes they know of newer scholarships that have yet to be posted because of lack of staff over the summer, or just getting things approved with the school website, or just getting busy with transcripts and class registrations. So just ask them if there's any new scholarships. And, also during my time as admissions counselor, I would often see students from the exact same high schools all enter college with the same local scholarships. So you can also ask your counselor for past graduation commencement programs to see what local scholarships have been earned in the past by graduates from your school. And then next, check the websites at other schools around your region. Private scholarships from small businesses tend to only contact the high schools that they're familiar with to post their scholarships, but there might be, very few applicants from that school, and then the local company's preference might be just to award a local student, and they don't care what high school they attend. So just be careful to check the wording on the application and not to miss out on a great opportunity. So now we're going to kind of widen our search away from schools, but also just still stay local. We need to research local organizations that offer scholarships, and this is where becoming an expert on your area will really pay off. Again, this is a great place to find scholarships with less competition and a higher chance of snagging them. So these are organizations like Boy Scouts, Elks Club, Toastmasters, 4-H, Rotary clubs, and especially nonprofits. In my city, there's a great scholarship program through the local Independent Business Association, and they award like 40 to 60 scholarships every year, and they're really well priced too. So just search for scholarships through nonprofits because they have a lot of them. And then lastly, search the word scholarships on the websites of every local radio and TV station just to see if you can uncover any surprising hidden gems. And just be careful to make sure that you're checking that they're active before spending your time applying, of course. Reach out and make sure they're active. And then lastly, we're going to branch out a little bit. Oh, I guess not really lastly. We've got a couple more steps. Look into local businesses that have national chapters. The best way to describe this is by giving an example. So if your area has a local junior achievement chapter, this is a national nonprofit that has local chapters. You'll notice that their office offers local scholarships to area high school students that have attended a sponsored event, but there's also larger national scholarships that are listed on their JA USA website. So you could potentially win 2 scholarships for just meeting the same criteria. Ducks Unlimited is another example of this. There's so many examples of this. So just find local organizations that also have national chapters and just see if there's any additional scholarships. Lastly, we have national scholarships. These have the most competition, of course, but if you scour the internet, you'll definitely find the most variety and also the most specificity. That's not the right word. Websites like FastWeb and scholarships.com allow you to search by major when you make a profile to search, just to make sure that you're eligible, and they weed out the competition this way. Other websites include Unigo, Scholarship Monkey, niche.com. Those are all listed on the site right there. So go ahead and write them down. For these, I recommend setting up a new email address to use when applying to scholarships and setting up these profiles so you don't get a bunch of spam emails. In addition to these big websites, I also just recommend doing a good old-fashioned Google search for like engineering scholarships, just whatever your major is, and then scholarships. I was giving a speech last year to a junior animal science group, and I found over 25 scholarships just looking through random websites in a Google search. And this was beyond the only 5 similar ones that were just for horse owners that I found on those big search engines. So just start doing a Google search, again, checking to make sure they're active before you apply. And you'll be surprised at what you find in your area. So now I want to talk a little bit about international students. For international students, I do recommend just searching these same scholarship search engine sites, but this time for the keywords international scholarships. There's also specific scholarship sites for international students like internationalstudent.com/scholarships. They have over 1,500 scholarships with unrestricted nationality and host countries, although many of them are still specific to a major, but that actually helps you weed out the competition more anyway. Then the Fulbright Foreign Student Program also offers financial support to international students seeking an American degree for a year or more, and that wording indicates that it's a renewable award. If you're female or from a developing country, there's even more specific awards out there for you, which again just cuts down the competition. And then if you're a first-generation student, there are more opportunities to even count for both international and domestic students. So honestly, international students just have to do the same searching that residence students do. It's not any easier to search, just using different keywords. And then again, choosing an affordable school in the beginning will help overall costs if you're coming from another country and wanting to study in the States. I recommend just a Google search looking for tuition, schools with tuition for out-of-state and international students that are the same. This is called banded tuition. And one example is the University of Southwest Minnesota. And there's also, of course, lists of schools that are international friendly with their tuition to begin with. So just do some good old-fashioned Google searching and you will have so many answers to build a great college and scholarship list. Okay, I do see a couple questions coming in. I'm just going to answer one of them really quick. When you say essay and personal statement, what essay are you referring to? So when Nicole was just talking about applying to the school, we're talking about a personal statement. Of course, when you're applying to a state university and if they're applying through the Common App, you'll be doing the personal statement, which is 650 words. It's right there in the Common App. And also some schools have additional supplemental questions. There will also be often in scholarship applications, we'll cover this next, there will be additional essays required for external scholarships or even scholarships through the college. So just definitely do all of your research way in advance because you definitely have some essays coming up. So personal statement refers to anything through the Common App or usually just through any college application. We call that kind of the personal statement. And then supplemental essays will be requested by some schools and also by scholarships. So there's lots of essays. And then what was the scholarship Michaela mentioned? JAUSA. That was just a local organization that has a national chapter. So Junior Achievement has local branches, and then also has JAUSA is the national branch. So you can apply to 2 scholarships using the same criteria if you have a junior achievement in your area. Okay, perfect. So we're going to talk about building an example scholarship list next. So when you are kind of looking for scholarships, it's hard to know like how to organize them. And this is exactly how I just want to give you an example of how a perfect scholarship list should be organized. Here's an example, a sample scholarship list I helped a past student build. It was made mostly of local scholarships, and you can see how it was clearly organized by columns. So we're even saying like which essay to use, where, what's the word count, and then the link to apply, deadline, everything. In this particular student's case, this spreadsheet also had a separate tab. Just in the Google Sheets, there was a separate tab that had the actual body of every single essay that he wanted to use, so that all he had to do when he was applying, he didn't have to like search anywhere else. The whole essay was just in that same document, just a different tab. So you can make things even that easy. You don't even have to open another document, just everything you need right there. Thankfully, essay prompts for private scholarships rarely change, so you can write them way in advance and also search for scholarships way in advance. I built my entire scholarship list and also wrote a bunch of the essays all the way in my junior year. And you'll see some of the scholarships on this list that have lower award amounts. This is actually where the big money is. So just like students who are avoiding applying to scholarships with essays because they're too much work, most students also skip over scholarships that are less than like $10,000 because they think that they're not worth their time. But as someone who only won smaller scholarships and then just stacked them on top of each other to chip away at my own tuition costs, I have to tell you that they are worth your time because, again, there's less competition. 10 $1,000 scholarships is still $10,000, and $10,000 is definitely worth your time.
Absolutely. All right. So what about the FAFSA, the CSS profile, gift aid, need-based, all of those fun questions? So there are also tuition discounts at private colleges and work-study programs to chip away at your final price, but they are usually need-based. There's a lot of information to cover on the FAFSA. I will say if anyone has questions on the FAFSA, definitely reach out via email. Again, I used to work in a financial aid office. I have a lot of experience on that one, or type your questions in the chat and I will hopefully be able to answer them. So here is the bottom line with need-based aid. Many families don't believe that they'll qualify for aid, so they don't even bother applying. Applying for college is almost like a marathon, and it's one additional step that could really benefit you in the long run. Certain things that parents don't realize: if you have 2 kids in college, if you live in a certain area, you may be eligible for aid that you might not have thought that you were. So it definitely doesn't hurt. Apply for the FAFSA on October 1st when it opens. Get it in early, just because sometimes there is additional information that they need. Another fun fact is if the school you're interested in has a CSS profile, it's different requirements than the FAFSA. So if you may not qualify for aid under the FAFSA, you may earn aid with a CSS profile. It just depends, and it definitely never hurts to apply. Work study programs in particular just serve as an avenue for you to get some of your tuition paid by working on campus. So there's typically an amount that you qualify for, you work an on-campus job, and then typically the money that you earn is going to your tuition, but sometimes it does go to you. It just depends on the school. Then once the money that you owe to the school is met, you can receive a normal paycheck from the school, which is a great thing as well. So nowadays, most schools just prefer to give you a regular paycheck, but it just depends on the university. Everyone is a little bit different. It just depends how you want to spend it. So when it comes to your financial aid letter, it is important in advance to know that you need to look at more than just the numbers of the tuition. So the cost of attendance is not the same as tuition. You might be able to afford $10,000 for tuition, but the actual bill might be $22,000 instead, and you definitely need to factor in those additional items. So no matter what the sticker price is, you have to include the tuition, housing, meal plans, all of that combined. Merit scholarships and grants will then determine your final price. So I mentioned before the costs, and then you're going to take everything off of that with your indirect and your direct costs. So once you receive your financial aid package, if some of you are seniors on here, you should be either have received it or receiving it soon. There's multiple lines to consider and to compare. So the letter might come in the actual mail, but it'll probably be on your portal first. So definitely look out for an email. Definitely try to remember those passwords and logins for all of your portals. That's definitely one of the most stressful things I think that students deal with around this time, is remembering all of those passwords and portal logins. So once you get your letter, it's going to show what merit scholarships you probably already received with admission. Then it will tell you if you qualify for any loans or grants from the FAFSA or the CSS profile. Remember that grants are funds that you do not have to pay back, such as Pell or SEOG, and the loans, subsidized and unsubsidized, will need to be repaid, but they both just have a little bit of a different stipulation. So they're based on your demonstrated financial need. Luckily, your merit scholarships are completely separate. You can't lose those scholarships as for your family income if anything changes. But whenever you see your loans on your financial aid letter, it is important to do the research on the interest rate offered, and then research whether you could get a lower rate from possibly a bank or an outside organization. So Merritt did mention that she had a way to compare all of your offers, which I really like to have families do side by side. Look at each line item and see how it affects the final sticker price. Ignore the loan amounts because you can research loans later, but really just look at your grants and your scholarships as far as the total actual cost. So once you've done that, you do want to research a little bit more merit scholarships you've been offered and see what the requirements are. So definitely read the fine print. Sometimes you'll get a scholarship, but they'll tell you you must maintain a certain GPA. Consider the accessibility of the merit scholarship, and never attend a school that you could not afford without the merit scholarship, because there's always that possibility that either the program will get dropped, you'll have tough classes, and you may not be eligible for that same scholarship the following semester. So if you did receive you got a higher scholarship from another university and you are considering appealing, please keep in mind that appeals are only effective if something has changed in your financial situation or something has changed drastically with your grades. It really depends. Every situation is a little bit different. There are ways to appeal your financial aid, your federal aid. A lot of families are having this issue right now with COVID. If a job was lost, since FAFSA does use the prior year. So there's two types of appeals. One would be a federal aid appeal, and then the other one would be a scholarship appeal, just depending on what you're actually looking for. Just simply stating that a school has offered you a better scholarship might not be effective, no matter how many websites out there claim otherwise, but private colleges do have a lot more ownership over their funds. Additionally, you do have to understand that they are recruiting students as well. So they are looking for students to come, and possibly giving you a little bit more might not put a huge impact on their pocket, but it'll definitely affect yours. So if that is a change for you, definitely write an appeal letter.
Mentioning that another school gave you a better offer, basically merit-wise, I recommend, just making sure that the college that you're mentioning is actually comparable. So if you're writing into a huge, public state university and you're saying, John Jingleheimer Schmidt, small private college with, 200 students, they gave me a $5,000 scholarship. It's not going to really affect, the financial aid department at the bigger school. It's just not the same. So try to make sure when you're mentioning another offer that it's a comparable school to the one you're talking to.
Absolutely.
That's just my
No,
last
absolutely.
little thing. Okay, so I want to get to kind of our questions because I have an essay here, and I'm happy to read an essay if we have time, but maybe we can come back to it because we're kind of at the end of our hour. We wanted to get to everything for you, but so we can definitely come back to the essay if there's still a lot of you on here, but maybe we could just move past it.
Awesome. So additionally, Michaela is going to be hosting a 9-day crash course to answer many of the questions you guys have about how to apply to scholarships during this whole process. The video course will show you techniques that you need to find money to pay your tuition bills. In the video modules, she's going to walk you through the entire scholarship process, including searching for the scholarships, spotting scams, which do happen, writing the essay, and filling out the FAFSA. So with a selection of the video modules, examples of how to answer scholarship essays, timeline, and many advanced strategies and tips, this course is one of the most comprehensive available to help you successfully find and win scholarships. So definitely check that out.
It's just going to be tons of information walking through in detail everything we talked about today, but way more. So if you liked kind of the approach we took to building a scholarship and just things we mentioned, and you feel like maybe you want help with your own scholarship or even scholarship essays or your Common App essay, if you feel like any of that would benefit from having one of us work with you, the good news is that we're here for you. And we have a package that we created just for you. This is our personal statement package. We're going to have you working with Nicole right here. So you've already met her. The hard part is done. We're going to have a brainstorming session with her one-on-one. And you're going to be developing your own outline for the personal statement. That's to be applying for through the Common application. You're going to have a complete brainstorming call, develop an outline so you can start working on your personal statement, and then 2 different editing rounds, all for the package price of $199. So please email out to us. hello@moonprep.com. I know it's going to be all over in the chat, so you can find it pretty easily. But email us if you want to schedule your personal statement first call with Nicole now. And also, if you want Moon Prep in your corner, we would love to meet with you and help with anything that you need in the admissions process. We also wanted to make sure that you have, as we begin our Q&A, I wanted to kind of leave you with our contact information and also the link to get our free ebook to help with essays, and that's right on the screen. Also, please feel free to subscribe and so you can be kind of in the loop when we do more of these webinars. We do usually 2 every month, maybe even more, who knows. We do lots of fun things throughout the month, and you're also welcome to sign up for our newsletter, which is just at moonprep.com and then /blog. You can find the sign up for our newsletter right there. And yep, there's multiple dates. And you can only have to
We're also on social media too. So if you follow us on Instagram, I know a lot of the students are typically on there, or on Facebook. We post all of our updates there too. So definitely check that out if you would like.
Yes, just follow us on all the things, and we are always giving free resources, giving out all of our information. We just let you guys have all of our information. But I want to get to our question and answer session. We want to answer all of your questions, so go ahead and send them in. We already have a couple to handle, but also all of our contact information is up on the screen for you, so please reach out as well afterwards. Okay, so I saw one back up here. So how to find scholarships that can be granted only by writing essays. So that's essentially what I was saying when you're going to be building that scholarship list, and you're going to be making profiles at scholarships.com and FastWeb. That's where you're going to find the ones that ask for essays. So it'll say right there when you're searching for them in all of those bigger websites, it'll say right there what the essay prompt is right next to the deadline. So everything will be right there. And that's where you find the ones that require essays. So just do all the search engines, create a search profile, and build your scholarship list from there. Just like your scholarship list is essentially just pulling the ones that you want to apply for, the ones that you feel like you can actually tackle, ones that have essays that you want to write, and just putting them in a spreadsheet just to keep track of them. So you can find those on those search engines. Alrighty, what else?
I saw another question. Are scholarships the only basis based on grades, or are there other criteria as well? So every school is a little bit different. Many schools will just offer you merit scholarship based on your application. So whether you submit your personal statement or not, any supplemental essays that they ask for, and your transcripts and your test scores. An important thing to note is if you do visit colleges either virtually or in person, asking admissions counselors what their strategy is. So sometimes you're automatically put into a pool, and then sometimes you may have to apply separately for merit scholarships as well, or there might be additional search engines through the university that you don't know or that you're not aware of. So when you're making your list and your spreadsheet to stay organized, make sure you ask that question to the admissions counselors and make a note of it for each school.
Yes. And, even for external scholarships too, I just wanted to say, you don't have to have the best grades for those. I mean, I see them all the time that are, must have a 2.5 GPA or a 3.0 GPA. There's ones for lower GPAs there too. Plus, there's also, I know of many, many external scholarships that just have like different criteria. Like they're not hung up on GPAs and things like that. They're like, submit your drawing and ideas for a tiny house. You don't have to do an essay. They're not hung up on GPAs. So just start searching and you'll be surprised at what you find that you're eligible for. I promise you're eligible for tons of them. You just have to search. So sign up for our course and I can walk you through how to search too. All right. Is there anything else? We have thanks for the info. Okay, perfect. I don't see any other questions. I'm like,
I didn't see any either.
Are there any final questions at all? Send them now or email us after, I guess. But okay, perfect. Well, thank you so much for spending your evening with us. We appreciate it so much. And also our goal is, of course, always for you to leave this webinar having more information at your hands to be successful. So we'd love to know how we did. We'd love for you to share your positive experience with others, and email us if you have any feedback on things we can change or even topics you'd like us to cover in the past, just send us an email. And if you have a review that you'd like others to find us, just definitely leave a review and hopefully others will be directed to find us as well. But we just want to continue sharing our expertise, our insight, and we want to continue connecting with you all as well. But thank you so much again for spending your evening with us, and we will see you soon tackling the next topic or something else if you send in an idea of a topic we should cover in the future. Thank you guys. Have a good night.